This is More to Say with Randy Naughton. Interesting conversations with interesting people.
We welcome you into another edition of More to Say with Randy Naughton. As always, thank you so much for your support. Like, subscribe everywhere you get your podcasts. And of course, also on KTRS radio as well. You can get that every single Sunday at 5 p.m. More to Say airs on the air there. I made a rhyme. So you can catch it there as well. And we, of course, wouldn't be able to do this without the support of our great sponsors, the Lemp Mansion in St. Louis, one of the most haunted places in all of North America, with an incredible backstory, very historic building, amazing events and things you can do, weddings, lunch, dinner, you name it, lempmansion.com in St. Louis. Team Jakey is hoping to end the stigma of mental illness. This family knows all too well what it's like to lose someone to suicide, so they're doing all they can with their nonprofit, Team Jakey, to try to prevent other families from going through this as well. And we'd also like to thank the Mostly Superheroes podcast, a bunch of great guys led by my buddy Logan Janis, who is also our podcast partner and producer on this podcast as well. So he's the one who makes it all pretty for you when we go into post-production. So thank you for all of your support to all of our sponsors and our participants. So this past Father's Day, my daughter sent a text to my husband, "Happy Father's Day, you're the best daddy in the world." And what did he do? He sent back a thumbs up emoji. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that darn thumbs up emoji. And then I started seeing things on TikTok all day long of people, every dad's response to every text is a thumbs up emoji. And I'm like, wait a minute, is this a thing? Why is this a thing? And why does it bug me so much? So I thought we'd enlist the help of an expert, I guess, in this field. And I think he might have thought I was a little bit cuckoo when I placed a phone call to him saying, listen, I want to discuss this. I want to discuss emojis. So we have Dr. Scott Varda on with us this morning. Today, I should say. He is from Baylor University, professor of communications and rhetoric at Baylor University as well. Thank you, doctor, for joining us. I appreciate your time today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
All right. You did think I was a little bit weird with my request when I first got on the phone. You're like, okay. Did you think it was a strange request?
It is actually not the strangest request that I've received about emojis, actually. So
okay, well, the theme of this podcast, it's a variety podcast, and it's interesting conversations with interesting people. And I did read with interest an article in which you were featured, where you talked about emojis and the communication of emojis and where it's come as far as in our vernacular and in our everyday communication. It's everywhere these days. Do you know when the first emoji was introduced? I'm testing you now, Doc.
So honestly, it kind of depends on what you think of as an emoji. Do you want to go back to what we would traditionally understand as the official digital emojis are originated in this way, which would get us to Shigetaka Kurita.
That's the Japanese artist.
Right, in the 1990s. But we could also go back further for Japanese telecommunication companies released some earlier things in 1997, even as late as, I want to say last year. Matt Stefton rediscovered a 1988 Sharp PDA. That's a personal digital assistant for those who've not seen them, that contained a set of 100 emojis. There's a possibility of a 1979 device that had something, we probably call them proto emojis.
Right.
The closest analog to them would probably be Microsoft Wingdings, even though Wingdings aren't invented until 1990-ish or so. And if we take the root of emoji as a picture character, then it really means, do we include things like cave paintings or
hieroglyphics, things like that.
Smiley faces that we find on Turkish clay pots 1700 BCE. So the answer to your question is one of 15 or 18 different dates. But generally, Kurita is credited as having initiated emojis.
Well, I hope this Krita person in Japan is getting paid a lot of money, but somehow I kind of doubt it. It gained popularities in the 2010s with everyone doing a smiley face and a thumbs up and a peace sign and, whatever. The poop emoji, oh my God, when that came out, it was just crazy. Apple introduced in 20, I think 11, I can't read my own handwriting, an official emoji keyboard. So when I say it is now used in everyday communication, in pretty much every type of communication, is that accurate?
I don't think that we've found any in uh, Slack chats from DoD officials yet, but outside of that context, there aren't a lot of contexts where we don't see emojis used.
Okay, so we use emojis in everyday texting. Hey, I'll be over for dinner at, 6 p.m. and it's 100 or a smiley or a heart or something like that. When is an emoji not appropriate?
The answer to that question is probably the same answer that Isocrates and Aristotle were giving 2,500 years ago, which is to say that it kind of depends on your audience. And we see emojis pop up not only in our personal text messaging, but in work-based messaging apps, Slack, WhatsApp, Discord, but
Right.
also in video games. A number of games now are promoting their use of emojis that doesn't affect gameplay, but allows for players to communicate with each other. But we also use them in healthcare settings, as well as in corporate ability to monitor the well-being of their remote employees. That
Yeah,
we
like on
find
a
that,
scale of 1 to 10 smiley faces, tell me how you're feeling
yes,
today, basically,
in
right?
fact, there's some solid research from the early 2020s that indicates that the use of the smiley, how are you doing emoji-based system is actually a more accurate way of discerning some senses of well-being. They simply communicate things in a way that text-based language and other symbols can't quite get at.
So is that the science behind the visual? I mean, do we react to better to the visual rather than the written? Say an emoji and or a smiley face?
I don't know if I would use the word better, but
Yeah.
differently for sure. So, in the same way that some people often ask if we can use emojis to become a universal language, I don't think that it's reasonable to describe even an entire set of emojis as a language as much as it's a set of code that can add to what we traditionally understand as our languages as an additional way of discerning especially more oral understandings of communication in textual form, which is a question that rhetoricians have kind of long struggled for. How do we combine these two?
Gotcha. All right. So why, when my husband, no matter what, dinner's at 6, pick up the mail, whatever, and he sends me that, why does that piss me off? He asked me one day, he goes, "What's your problem with that?" I go, "Stop." I go, "Don't just do a the." I said, "It feels dismissive to me. Like, yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
quit buggering me, gotcha, blah, 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 blah. It just, but I guess that's all subjective. Am I wrong there? Doc,
So
tell me I'm right.
Li- linguistically, there's probably no right or wrong in this particular instance. I will say that there are some trends that we could point to. Generally, we've reported these trends generationally, which is that older generations generally describe the thumbs up as anything from passive acceptance to enthusiastic agreement, and whereas younger generations think of it in a passive aggressive way. And maybe I'll take it out of the emoji
Yeah.
context just for a
Okay.
moment to give it even a better example of this. There is discussion on simple texting without emojis at present about how do people feel when a period, or an alternative way to think about it is full stop, appears in a text. And older folks will, generally speaking, think of that as I'm just using correct grammar. Younger
Right.
folks will be like, what is with this full stop in your text? why are you so angry with me? And so that's just a question of a piece of punctuation. Now, when we extend that to a set of symbols that are almost 4,000 official emojis that we've got, it's easy to understand how misunderstandings can occur like that.
Yes,
So
I was going to get to that. It's like, you send the wrong emoji, man. You could send the wrong message, something you totally did not intend to do, and something you was the opposite of what the other person thought.
yeah, absolutely. And the easiest way, I think, to understand this is that all language fundamentally is both capable of expressing a number of different understandings and thoughts, but ultimately depends on both the sender as well as the receiver of that message understanding the same set of meanings. And this has historically been a problem, regardless of the mode of symbols and codes that we're using to exchange this information. So
So
it
it's a
might, I mean, I'll set myself outside of communication professor
okay.
for a moment to go back to your original, why does it upset you? If I were to guess, I would go a little bit more psychological and suggest you want your husband to engage the comment that you said more rather
Hello?
than I have simply affirmed it.
Yes, yes. It's a matter of it to me, and again, it's subjective. To me, it just feels dismissive. And then when I, on this past Father's Day, saw all these little TikToks mocking every dad sending a thumbs up emoji, I'm like, wait a minute, do all dads do that? Do all husbands do that? Is it a dude thing? Is it a gender thing? I mean, is it I mean, have you done that much of a deep dive into it?
I think all of our modes of communication are necessarily aged and gendered and raced and cultured, meaning the set of folks both sending and receiving those messages, whether they are emoji or something else, are necessarily influenced by the larger fragments of language and culture that we experience in our understandings. And so the coding and then decoding process is both made easier and more difficult with emojis.
Hi, everyone. It's Randy Naughton from the More to Say podcast with another sponsor shout out. When is the last time you've been to the Lemp Mansion in St. Louis? Did you know it is one of the most haunted places in all of North America with an incredible history? It's a beautiful building, first of all, and they've got so many events. When's the last time you've been there? They've got boozy bingo, holiday brunches, events like weddings and parties, a scavenger hunt, overnight stays, if you dare, Spirit with the Spirit tours, and their legendary all you can eat family style fried chicken dinners on Sundays. It's amazing. So listen, check it out on their website at lempmansion.com. We thank them for supporting our More to Say podcast, and I'll see you at the Lemp.
Now you're hearing from us over here on the podcast, Mostly Superheroes. I'm your host, Logan Janis.
Arena Andy.
Scotty Scoop.
Sam the Sleeper.
And we're bringing you all the things in St. Louis and beyond, from events and interviews,
Sports and movies.
Comics and games.
To community and news.
all the things that you need to stay informed, have a little fun. It's all happening at mostlysuperheroes.com, and we'll see you there.
Hi, everyone. It's Randy Naughton from the More to Say podcast. Thank you very much for supporting our podcast over the tons of episodes we've done so far. Somebody I want to shout out specifically to is an organization called Team Jakey. They are one of the sponsors of the More to Say podcast, and I couldn't be more grateful to be partnering with them. What is Team Jakey? Well, this family, the Zeller family, knows all too well what it's like to lose somebody to suicide. So that happened to them, their beloved Jake. Took his own life. And what they want to do, they've set out on a quest to end the stigma of mental illness. So Team Jakey puts together all these amazing community events year round to help raise the awareness and prevent suicide and end the stigma of mental illness. So we would love it if you followed them on Facebook, Team Jakey and the Stigma. And of course, thank you for supporting the More to Say podcast as well. Team Jakey is one of our partners, and we are so happy to have them on board. Thank you very much, and we'll see you on the podcast. I never thought about that. Generationally speaking, I can definitely see a separation or a disconnect from the older people to the younger generations because, when some of the older people go, I don't know what eggplant means, it's like, well, I'm not going to explain it to you then, um, because it's a generationally thing. And of course, when the poop emoji came out, people were having all kinds of fun with it. And I've seen it in serious text messages, I've seen it in text messages. Um, and culturally, I've definitely seen it there as well. Which you break it down interestingly. Now, do you address these types of things with your students at Baylor?
Absolutely. And not simply emoji specific, but on all modes of communication. Meaning we have these conversations about both emoji usages, but also about cultural references, also about language use, that there are sets of ways of talking that we use in specific spheres and in specific instances and in different relationships. And that code of language differs based on that cultural sphere that you're participating in, as well as the power imbalance that might exist between the communicators, the formality of the event. All of these things fundamentally shape the success or complete misunderstanding of the symbols we use to communicate our thoughts.
So wouldn't it be prudent and wouldn't it likely be smarter of all of us just to write it out so nobody can misconstrue what the emoji means?
I think that without giving too many examples, I will simply point to politics generically and say that it's very easy to understand politicians saying a set of words and being understood differently by multiple different groups, even when it is textual. And the nature of language means that there is a difference between written as well versus oral modes
Hmm.
of communication. There's differences between simply textual versus visual modes of communication. And there are aspects of thought that can't be conveyed simply textually. One of the best examples of this, and one of the good analogs I've seen describing emojis, has been that they make written culture more like oral culture. Meaning, the text, oftentimes, when it is purely written, can seem sort of dry to us as
Yeah.
audiences, and there's not a full examination of the meaning of that. Whereas the addition of a visual component conveys a whole host of other thoughts about what it is that we are seeking to understand.
Wow, you have like years and years and years of class material to talk to your students about. I just know you do. Do you know, and I'm going to test you, Doc. Um, do you know what the most used emoji is to this day?
Ooh, I'm gonna guess it is the heart emoji.
That's number two. What's number
Hmm.
one?
I mean, it's probably smiley face or thumbs up.
It's tears of joy, tears of ha ha ha, laughing so hard you got tears coming out. That's the one.
So
That's the most used one.
that's interesting that you pointed that out. I have a pretty good understanding of how I use emojis, how my students use emojis, how my 9 and 12-year-old daughters use emojis. And I, in fact, asked them yesterday, I'm like, hey, random aside, what are your 5 most used emojis? And ask a couple of your friends. Both laugh, cry, and cry were in both of their top fives and in the top fives of all of their friends. I
And so,
think the
what
one
would you
that
say about your college students? What would they use the most?
shockingly, I don't see a lot of the college communication with me in official emails. Generally speaking, college students speaking to professors don't use a lot of emojis. So you
Probably
will see the
smart.
thumbs up or the smiley face.
Yeah.
Uh, the most of the research indicates that we will see a lot of side eye. We will see a lot of laugh cry. Um, The one that I was struck a little bit by was the painted nail
Oh yeah,
one,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I've seen everything from put in a musical score for from a music student to a professor to indicate a whole host of things. Who knows what the original composer wanted? But my children use it not in any way referencing having painted nails,
Right.
but simply as a synonym for what for sleigh, right? It
Right. Like
isn't.
I'm unbothered. I'm unbothered. Look what I just did. I'm
Right. Or I'm
unbothered.
excited for you in some way, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's not a singular meaning. It is a host of 8 or 9 different related concepts, some of which can be oppositional to each other in the same way that the word literally now means both literally and figuratively
Oh
at the
my
same
gosh. I'm glad you're peeling back the layers of this communication onion because my head would definitely explode. Okay, I want to know, Dr. Varda, what emoji do you use the most as a communication expert?
Yeah, I presume that I was going to get asked this, and I thought actually that it was the thumbs up, and I went through and looked at my most recent. Oh, I shoot, I wrote it down.
What is it with dads and the thumbs up? This is all I want to know.
I The best I can offer is
Yeah.
that I have a list of things that I'm working on right now. I understand the message you've communicated to me. I'm on it, and that's my best version of that.
So
I
do you
use the
think
heart.
you use heart? Go
I
ahead.
use heart a lot. That is still in my top five. Laughing, crying. I use the red 100 in terms of. I completely agree. The honestly, the one I find myself using GIFs and memes
Yeah, yeah,
more
yeah.
than emojis. Actually, uh, if there was a good meme for Kermit the Frog sipping tea. I would use that one, or the James Harden side eye. I would use that one, or the Alonzo Mourning. Is that really what I'm thinking? Oh no, I guess that's what I'm thinking. One. Those would probably be my 3 most, but we don't have good meme to emoji ones yet, unless you're using the new Android available generative AI for Apple that allows you to merge and create new emojis.
Yes, my head's not even wrapped around the whole AI thing. I'm like, okay, create a little image that looks like this. That's as far as I'm able to go. I wanted to, and as long as I have you on the line, because I'm really curious about this, as a longtime journalist, TV, media, radio, writer, I did it for 40 years. I'm now retired from TV news, and I understand a lot of journalism students now come through the communications ranks. Obviously, that's what you do. So I wanted to kind of touch base with you, aside from the emoji issue, um, about, and this is a loaded question, what are you teaching today's communications students? Because there are so many tentacles to the communications world now that so many more than there were even 10 years ago. So, what would you say has changed maybe in the last decade based on what you teach them and what you communicate with them?
Right. I think there's both old and new that answers that question. Part is a reflection back to the things that rhetoricians and communication specialists have taught since the very beginning of where we chart the discipline, which is across a whole host of places going back thousands of years, but that your audience matters. And your audience, if they don't determine the success of your communication practices, they certainly influence it to such a degree that your efforts must be centered with them. When it comes to more recent things, appropriateness of specific audiences matters a lot, and the newer versions of ways of communicating will still fundamentally rely on those understandings that while we're trying to communicate the thoughts that are in our head, we have to keep in mind the decoding ability of the receiver on the other end, especially in multimodal mass communication efforts where it's not a one-on-one interpersonal conversation, but rather a situation where there isn't an opportunity to clarify meaning. And it means that you have to stay on top of what other people are doing. Your use of a particular word, of a particular phrase, of a reference, of an emoji can be totally in line with cultural norms one week and the next week fall out of favor and start to become something that means something very different than how you intended it.
So it seems today, and it just seems to me in today's media world, where I came up in a different media world than there is today, because you have partisan news organizations on both sides, blah blah blah, spewing whatever they want to spew. It feels like the gloves are off, and it feels like you're not going to be held accountable for what you say, and it feel or write or communicate or text or put on a signal chat or whatever. But it just how do you convey that to today's students at Baylor University, where you have to rein it in a little bit and have a little bit of decorum, because once they graduate, guess what? They're going to do what they want anyway. So how do you convey that to them?
So I think that we probably have a misapprehension about the nature of a free-for-all and where that free-for-all exists. I certainly think that some of the reduction in political decorum and the 24/7 cycle of news, especially the nationalized nature of a polarized populace, gives the impression that nothing that anyone says matters. I think for most people, things that people say still are remembered by other people. And
Yes.
that one of the many things that we teach in our classes is that you need to be careful with the words that you use. And despite the long-held aphorism, words, in fact, might break your bones in some way. And so, and not simply the people who are receiving those, but the people who use them. And we need to be careful, not simply with the words that we use, but the tone that comes behind them. That ability to misunderstand language is actually one of the things that helps drive our preference for emojis. It's both an attempt to capture a meaning that we couldn't have in text, but also there's an artistic and fun aspect of it. And I think there's also an effort to not be completely clear on what your message is.
Wow. Like I said, there are so many tentacles to communications and language and texting and emojis. And I'm sure it just adds more to your syllabus every year. In fact, when you go back into session, maybe this fall with your students, is there anything particular that new that you're going to be introducing to them, maybe to touch base on in some of your studies and some of your teachings?
So generally speaking, the work that we're doing is tied to the particular classes that we're teaching. But when I talk about emojis, two uh, two things come to mind. One is the fast changing nature of them. So, for instance, I was interviewed a couple of times last year about the seven new emojis plus the flag of Sark that got added in the new Unicode thing. And when I was first approached to talk about the leafless the leafless tree emoji, which was intended as an environmental one.
Oh yeah.
I, I had not heard of it at that point, and I initially thought that this was going to be an interview about like XXXTentacion, a rapper who had this tattoo of a leafless tree on them, and so it was kind of a little bit of a shock. Like, oh, this is an environment-based emoji. Okay. The other is that, and maybe this goes back to your question of meaning and are we held responsible? I consulted with a lawyer for a murder trial last year exclusively on the question of how emojis could be interpreted. And the legal realm is sort of a fascinating
Wow.
area where we aren't quite sure about what emojis look like. Some jurisdictions have said thumbs up can constitute a signature on a contract. In this particular one, I won't describe too much, but it literally was a question about whether or not an accused was admitting to bad behavior through their use of the emoji.
That is so interesting. Wow.
And so the nature of the what do particular words mean and what are the underlying conditions that drive our understandings of those are both new, but are also fundamentally the same kinds of ones that orators have faced throughout the existence of communicating with large numbers of people, but honestly, simply communicating between two people who've known each other for an extended period of time. And I think the thumbs up concern that you have with your husband is maybe the best demonstration of that. Like the two people who know each other's communication practices better than almost anyone else, and it's not that he's using it that's annoying to you, it's that you're not sure what all of the additional meaning he has behind that's annoying to you. And so it's that unknown aspect that is frustrating. And I think what that illustrates, and I don't think that you're unique in any way like that. I think we all struggle in those ways. And for that reason, I think emojis, as well as whatever is next, memojis, I presume that we will figure out a way to, especially for like Gen X and Boomer folks, make memes more into emojis in some capacity. Uh, uh, we will create a new iteration of them that will always express information and enhance our communication practices, but also have many of the same difficulties that text-based languages do as well.
Understood. Well, we are running out of time, and I did want to ask you, July 17th is World Emoji Day. Plans?
For July 17th.
Yes.
I'm
Are all your
done.
text messages going to be in emoji form?
I'm finally done teaching summer class by then. I am sure that my 9-year-old will make a point of sending me copies of articles. It doesn't matter that I've written, 50 to 85 other papers. Daddy doesn't do anything productive until he's got people quoting him about emojis, and that means that he's a real scholar.
Including being here on this podcast. So there
absolutely.
you go.
I'm sure she'll be sending me a link to this as well.
That's awesome. Well, we appreciate your time as Dr. Scott Varda. He is Baylor University Communications Professor and Rhetoric Professor, which I love that title as well. Thank you so much for your time today. You've enlightened me and probably taught me a little bit, chill out about the thumbs up. I just need to get over that. We've been married a long time, and you know what? It's good. I'm good. We're good. So thanks for joining me today. And of course, I'd like to thank all of our sponsors here as well. The Lemp Mansion in St. Louis, looking for a great event, a great meal, a great overnight stay, lempmansion.com. Team Jakey, who's hoping to end the stigma of mental illness. And of course, our podcast partner, Logan Janis, who is also one of the hosts of the Mostly Superhero podcast. Of course, you can always hear More to Say as well every Sunday on KTRS Radio in St. Louis. Just go to ktrs.com, click on the podcast tab, boom, we're there. Like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. We'll catch you wherever you find your podcasts. Thanks again for joining us on More to Say.
This has been More to Say with Randy Naughton. Interesting conversations with interesting people. Be sure to like or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.